All right, let's get to some answers. First question. What is your view of a job that pays $18 an hour? Is it a good one or a bad one? Depends on your role in life and what your needs are. Now, if you're living at home with your parents, maybe you have a lot of expenses. Maybe you have kids and you're not married but you still live at home. Maybe you go to school part-time. It depends on your situation. But for someone who's young and doesn't have any dependents and they can support themselves living out on their own, $18 an hour, depending on where you live, could be a good wage. Second question. Do you think the Fed will ever stop raising interest rates? Well, we've already started lowering them. So the answer is yes. The Fed just lowered interest rates. Of course, they're not going to keep raising interest rates forever, because eventually you'll have negative interest rates. And then what? We've already gone from about 2% all the way up to 5 or 6%. We don't know exactly where they're going to end up. But yes, we've already started to lower interest rates. Third question. How do I stay motivated when the market is down? This is a great question. And the first thing that comes to mind is look around your environment. Who are you spending most of your time with? Now, if you surround yourself with people that are constantly complaining and whining about the economy and the markets, well, guess what? You're probably going to feel that same way. There's a phenomenon called emotional contagion. So if you have a friend that's really positive and optimistic, you're more likely to be positive and optimistic. If you have a friend that's always pessimistic and always complaining, you're more likely to be pessimistic and complaining as well. So that's point number 1. To evaluate the people you spend most of your time with. Number 2 is that you should think back over the last 100 years. Just think about all the ups and downs the market has been through, and it's always recovered. Yes, there were times where it took a long time for the market to recover, but it always recovered. The fact that you're alive right now and you have access to the internet and you're able to watch this video means that you live in a time where things are pretty good. It means you live in a developed country. So it's very likely that your life will continue to improve as long as you continue to do the right things. Next question. Which companies do you invest in that pay dividends every day? I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you mean like exchange-traded funds or index funds that pay dividends every day? For example, SCHD is an exchange-traded fund that tracks a bunch of different stocks and they pay a dividend every day. So if you buy one share of that ETF, you'll receive a little bit of dividend every single day. If you want a list of those kinds of ETFs, I'll have to get back to you on that. But I'm pretty sure you can find them by searching online. Next question. Is the U.S. heading towards a recession or entering one? Could be. We're already in a technical recession. 2 quarters of declining GDP. Now, will it be a mild recession or a severe recession? That remains to be seen. But if you think about it, if we had another pandemic hit us and we had to shut down again, that would probably put us into a deep recession. But I think right now, I hope that it's going to be a mild recession, but we don't know. We'll find out soon enough. Next question. Is it possible to build wealth without taking debt? Absolutely. The problem with teaching financial advice online is that it becomes very generalized. When you take something that works for you and you try to apply it to somebody else, it may not work for them because everybody's situations are so different, and everybody has different goals and needs. So I don't know why anybody would tell you that debt is always bad, or debt is always good. It just depends. There are certain types of debt that make sense, and there are certain types of debt that don't make sense. It just depends on your situation. If you want to live a modest lifestyle and save money and invest, you absolutely can do that and build wealth without using debt. Or if you want to take out a mortgage and leverage other people's money to buy rental properties, you could do that and build wealth as well. You could also use debt to buy a car or to finance your college education. That makes sense, or you could use debt to buy things like vacations or designer clothes or handbags. So it just depends on what you're buying with that debt. The next question. Any advice on how to deal with my brother-in-law who's very much anti-rich people and always talking about inequality? Sure. I mean, the first thing is that it sounds like he's kind of a negative person, and it sounds like you're trying to avoid being a negative person. And if you want to avoid being a negative person, you should probably distance yourself from negative people. The next question. What is the best way to start investing if I have no money? Probably open a cash or brokerage account and start saving money. That's the best way to start investing, is to actually start saving money. So even if you only have $5, set up an automatic transfer from your checking account into your savings or brokerage account and start investing that money. You can't invest money that you don't have. So if you want to start investing, you need to start cutting costs and start saving money. That's really the best way to start investing, is to start saving money. Next question. Why does hard work sometimes fail to achieve success? This is an excellent question. A lot of the times hard work and success are related. However, sometimes you could work really, really hard, and it may not seem like you're getting anywhere. There's a few reasons for this. First is you might be working hard in the wrong direction. Like you might be heading in the right direction but the wrong path. For example, let's say you work really hard and you work extra hours and you get promoted and you get a raise, but you also work more hours, and that takes away your personal life and you lose your spouse and you lose your friends. At that point, what was the point? Sometimes you need to learn how to say no. You need to understand that working more isn't always better. Also, if you're working really hard but you're not using the best methods, you could be doing everything wrong. So that's why it's important to learn new skills. I've said this before, but if you do the same thing over and over again and you expect a different result, that's insanity. Sometimes you need to change up what you're doing and learn new things. Next question. Do you think the world economy is going into recession? We're already in a recession. We've already met the definition of a recession. We've had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, so yes, we're already in a recession. Next question. What did you study in college? I majored in accounting. Next question. Do you think China's zero COVID policy will hurt its economy and the global economy? Oh yeah, absolutely. Shanghai is one of the biggest ports in the world, and if you shut down a port that size, that's going to impact the entire globe. When I lived in Asia, I remember during the SARS epidemic how quiet the streets were. Nobody was outside. Everyone was wearing a mask. I remember walking around and hearing a dog bark and thinking, wow, I haven't heard a dog bark in weeks. And it was so eerie. It was a ghost town. So shutting down a city that big is going to definitely hurt the economy. Next question. Why do rich people love trickle-down economics? I don't know where you got that idea that rich people love trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is this idea that if you cut taxes at the top, that will trickle down to everyone else. But that doesn't mean that rich people necessarily love it. Maybe some of them do, maybe some of them don't. Maybe they prefer a different tax system. Maybe they don't care. I don't know what they think. But I don't think it's accurate to say that rich people love trickle-down economics. Next question. Why do so many people want to make millions but won't settle for anything less? Well, why do you think that is? I'll tell you why I think it is. It's because they see making millions as a status symbol. They see it as a trophy. They think it's going to give them all these benefits. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to make millions. If that's your goal, go for it. But I think a lot of people have the wrong idea about what it takes to make millions and what it's actually going to get them. And so they're looking for this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and they never really find it. All right, so the last question is, what is the best way to earn $100K per year and retire early? Work turns hunger into fullness. Unearned gains never last. So basically what this means is that if you want to earn $100K a year, you should find a job that pays $100K a year. It's that simple. But of course, it's not that easy. Earning $100K a year is not easy. So you should probably set up a plan where you have short-term goals that turn into long-term goals. Your long-term goal is to earn $100K a year. But in order to do that, you probably need to figure out what skills you need to acquire. And so maybe you need to go to school to acquire those skills, or maybe you need to apprentice under someone to acquire those skills, or maybe you need to read books or watch YouTube videos to acquire those skills. Whatever it is, you need to figure out what the steps are to acquire those skills and then put in the hard work to acquire those skills, and then you can hopefully earn $100K a year. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.